My name is Mr. Emmanuel Chaz from Edukea Education Center, Tanzania. Yes, it is a continuation of our session, Civics, Social Development class. When you're talking about social development, means this is on it based on the welfare of the people in the community. So when you talk about the welfare, means every person in the community has the ability to own the major means of production, to improve his or her economic developments freely. Nobody can stop a person to increase the production or to involve in the human and economic activities. It includes improvement of social, cultural, and the political aspect of life in the society. Everyone has a right to perform economic activities, to involve or to cooperate in the political affairs, cultural, and the other human life aspects. Therefore, apart from socio-economic development or social developments, there are some indicators or key elements which show the developments in the community. Example, here I have tried to mention and to explain briefly the indicator of social developments in Tanzania. The first is life expectancy of the people. Life expectancy, this is the average number of the year which an individual is expected to live. Either you may live 30 years, 45 years to 70 years, but life expectancy is what determines the socio-economic development. If there is socio-economic development, the number of the year of a person to live is very higher. So this is what we may differ in developed nations, whereby in developed nations, life expectancy is very higher, simply because the major means of social services, example, hospital, water supplies, is very enough, and the government is responsible to provide social services compared to developing nations, whereby in developing nations life expectancy is very low because of social services like health care and food supply. People in developing nations do not get balanced diet. They lack social services like water supplies, health services, example, hospital, whereby due to the different diseases, like communicable diseases, it makes them to lose their lives or to die. So this life expectancy would show that in a certain country, or example in Tanzania, there is socio-economic development if there is good social services like hospital. Point number 2 is literacy rate. This is the degree to which people in a given nation can read and write. So this shows the indication that in a country the government has improved to build schools and the other services, whereby through reading and writing, this implies that education level of a person is improved, and the governance has played its key part to provide all services to ensure that every individual attend to the school, and the enrollment is very high. So the students attend the class and the teachers attend the class, teaching in the class, which the end product make a students to read and to write very well. Point number 3 is population growth. This means the increased number of people in a given area defines the level of social development in any society or community. If there is good social improvements, like the availability of schools, hospital, roads, electricity, and the water supply, this is the trigger or the driving force of people to move from one area to another area, whereby this led to the population growth of a certain area due to availability of oral services. And point number 4 is the mortality rate and the health status of the people. In developing nations, the mortality rate is very higher due to different reasons like poverty, etc. So, by looking at these points, mortality rate, this means the rate of the deaths of children is very higher in the developing nations compared to developed nations. Whereby in the developed nations, the rate of death or of mortality rates is very low because there is enough services of health care and health center, whereby children receives all vaccine and medicine that is very required on a specific time, of which this reduce the number of deaths per year. So this mortality rate also defines social development of a certain country or of a certain community. Therefore, after looking at this all as the indication of social developments, the 5th point is the security level. In developed nations, security is well enough compared to the developing nations because of the maximum security. In developed nations, security level is very higher because of the max of the peace and the enough compared to the developing nations, whereby in developing nations security is very low and the peace is minimum compared to the developed nations. After looking at the indicator of social development, let us look on the factors of economic development. Economic development is what makes the changes or the gradual change from the lower stage of economic to the higher stage of economic development. So what is the driving force, or what is the reasons or the factors of economic development? The first is the rent. The rent is the top or the uppermost layer of the earth's surface, of which all natural resources are extracted from it. Example, gold, copper, gas, and the oil. These all are natural resources which are extracted from the land. So, land is the driving force of economic development because all human activities are conducted on the uppermost layer of the earth, which is the land, of which land is used to different economic activities like agriculture, mining, and so on. Whereby agriculture, after evolving on the land, on the earth's surface, it provides raw materials like cotton, sisal, as well as food supplies. Whereby food gives human being a power to give out and to provide labor for economic development of social and the national level. The second point is raw materials. Raw materials also is a driving force of economic development, whereby raw material are like tobacco, example, tobacco, sisal, coffee, and etc. These raw materials all are used in the industries to produce the end product or the raw materials, which are very useful in the nations. Also, we have tools and equipments. These tools and equipment also the driving force or the one of the factors of economic development, whereby tools and equipments are used in agriculture. Tools like tractor, hand hose, and the other technologies has been used for agriculture, whereby agriculture produce raw materials, which others are used as the raw material in the industry to give out the end product, which can be used as the textile industry to produce clothes, and the other materials are used as the food. Example of raw material that are used as the food like maize and the other thing. Also, we have labor. Labor, these are money power. Money power. We have both skilled labor and unskilled labor. All are very important. Laborers provide money power for the production of raw materials and the goods to push up the social developments, whereby people involved in agriculture, people involved in the industries provide money power for the production of raw material. That is ready to the correction of taxes and the development of other sectors. Also, we have capital. Capital, this is amount of money and resources, whereby capital is used to be invested in a certain place or in a certain business to produce and to create profit, whereby that profit pull up the developments of an individual and to raise up the socio-economic development due to the payment of taxes and to improve money himself through improvement of living conditions, building of good houses, using of good water, to attend in the hospital, and so far. Education. Also, education as a transfer of knowledge from one generation to another generation, or from one person to another person. This may change the attitude of a certain place, of a certain community, whereby the community now change from the negative attitude to the positive attitude to create a positive thinking of an individual and the whole members of the society, whereby that changes is being used to bring social developments and to improve each individual development. Why? Since led to social development. Good governance. A good governance is able to increase economic development due to the good uses of resources, of the available resources in the community. Through using the availability of resources, the governance led to the development of economic development due to the correction of taxes and the good utilization of the available resource. Also, there is the infrastructure. Infrastructure also this define social developments. How? Infrastructure, this is like roads, railways, and the other thing. So due to the construction of good roads, this implies that social development is there. Example, the Straggled Gorge in Tanzania, and there's a standard gauge in Tanzania. That implies that today the country has changed from lower stage to the higher stage, and to change from the old to the modern system of transportation from one place to another place due to the construction of standard gauge railways and the other thing. So, yes, dear class, after looking at the factors of economic development, now let us see the financial institution in development of economic development. Financial institution, this means there are some institutions which may provide loans or money for a person or a nation so that to improve economic development. They are like banks. So, and then we will see there after looking at this. These financial institutions have their key functions. These are the functions of financial institution and economic development. They provide loans to the public. So financial institutions like banks play a part to provide loans to the public affairs, or to the individual or to the whole people in the community, so that they can involve in economic activities to produce and to create a profit. Also, they create employment opportunity to the client. Financial institutions create employment opportunity to the client because after being provided the loans to the people in the society, this makes them to start now involving in different economic activities like conducting a business, or they may involve in fishing, or they may involve in buying of different crops like here in Mtwara. They may involve in buying cashew nuts and or in exchange and transporting from one place to another place so that they can make a profit. Also, they provide education to their clients. The financial institution, before to provide loans, normally they provide education so that this education may help the client on the way how they can manage that loans they have attained from that banks. Also, they help in maintaining the rules of money. How the rules of money can be attained from? The rules of money may be attained from financial institutions. The financial institution, before to provide loans, they educate their client so that the way how they are going to use the money and the value of money. So financial institution is very important. Very important because before to provide the money, they provide the education the way how you are going to use that money. And also they provide the education about business and the enterprises, as well as entrepreneurship, the way how you can invest, where you can invest, where you can buy your goods, where you can get market, and so on. Also, they provide financial support to special group. This financial support to special group, especially to these people with the problems of blindness, they get support from these financial institutions. People with different problems, diabetes, get loans from this or assistance from these financial institutions. And the people who is in need get financial support from financial institutions. So the financial institution is there to play different functions in the community and at the national level in general. Also, these financial institutions are banks. What is the banks? Banks is an organization that provides financial services like keeping and reading money to an individual or institution. So these banks in any country are there to provide the financial services either to a person or to a nation, to an individual or institution. Example, in Tanzania there are two main banks, namely Central Bank and the Commercial Bank. Starting with Central Bank. Central Bank, this is the governance bank which monitor or control all banks in the country. Example, Bank of Tanzania, BOT. BOT is there as the central bank in our country, of which is there to monitor other banks in other part of the country. Therefore, BOT as the central bank is the bank that collects all money before to be distributed to other banks, so that to give out the calculations and to know the profit and to give out the budget, how much money will be distributed in other banks and how much money should be remaining at the profit. Also, we have Commercial Bank. This is the bank or banks which in most cases deal with earning profit through financial services to their customers. Always this commercial bank are there for their business. So commercial banks are the bank that is there for creating a profit from their customers and financial services to their customers. So they are there to provide loans, as we have said before. They give out the education before to give the loans to the client. The way how you are going to invest that money in your business, and the way how you can produce profit through that money. And they give you the whole picture of the business, or so that you cannot get a loss. You can't get a loss through your business that you have plans. So these commercial banks in Tanzania are like CRDB Bank, NMB Bank, PBZ Bank, BOA Bank, Exim Bank, and the other banks. So the functions of the banks in Tanzania is to ensure that everybody who is aware with entrepreneur or with any business can be helped by giving him or her a loan, so that he can learn the business of which that business may help him to improve his economic development. And therefore, at the end of the day, this person will pay taxes, and that tax will go directly to the social services, to improve social services like schools, hospital, to purchase medicine, and the other materials that are needed in the society. So therefore, banks are very important, and the financial institution in general, to improve social and economic development. Thank you very much, students. So let us look our questions here and the way how we can answer. Explain the meaning of bank and its main function. It is main function. In social economic development. Dear students, as we have seen before, banks has different functions and the banks has its meaning. So at the end of the session, you should be able to explain the meaning of bank and its main functions in socio-economic development. The functions of economic development of the bank means the importance of economic development in the development of the society. So, what is bank? Bank, as a bank, I have taught you, then you will answer in your own time. And then after explaining the meaning of bank, you will give out those two types of bank that we have read. And then you will give out the functions of banks in socio-economic development. The functions means the importance of bank in socio-economic development. Thank you very much, dear class.